Are we on? Right, we're on. Yeah, good. So we're still on to the fun factor.
Let's just read it.
Okay then, chapter 13. What do you think, Thora? That second week of the holidays was crazy. The village was jam-packed. Vans with satellite dishes carved up the grass verges. Reporters stood on our little village roundabout and filmed everything that moved, asking children to cycle around them just one more time. Izzy and I spotted camera crews from the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Italy, Germany, America and Brazil. Everywhere you went, you could hear squawking parrots as we were asked to show the visitors how we check in and check out at the racks. These had been installed in 6 places around the village, and Shannon also spotted one from the school bus installed at the edge of town. That's for masochists only, Dad told us. Set off up that valley on a bike and it'll be the last ride you do. More often than not, the TV presenters would talk to other people and then ask if they knew where they could find that Batty girl. And finally they did, at the play park, the library, or even knocking on our front door. Or even knocking on our front door. Thank you, Rachel. So I'm a bit tired this morning. I was up at 5 going for a jog, and you two have only just woken up like 10 o'clock. We're an hour late today.
Well, that doesn't matter. Just come on.
I should be having my siesta now.
Come on.
Then they
siesta. You're the one who forced us to do this. Now carry on. Hurry up.
Then they'd pepper me with questions and get my name wrong. I got called Thora Catty, of course, but also Ratty, Tatty, and even Fatty. Reggie found it hilarious. He made faces at me from behind the camera to try and make me laugh and asked me for my autograph. But for me it was anything but funny. Adults crowding round, inquiring faces up too close, wanting to know what I thought, how I felt, what my hopes and fears were for the future. I'd been here before. I didn't like it before. And I still didn't like it. After one man got particularly close with his camera, I ran upstairs, tears streaming down my face. Dad found me and called a halt to the doorstep circus, sending the disappointed crews away. Shannon stayed at home, out of the limelight. Her only comment was that she could have made a fortune out of this if she'd been able to live stream it. It's safe to say she wasn't a big fan of the bikes, unless they took her straight to a nearby TV. As the last TV vans coasted off down the valley, the sound of diesel engines and generators was replaced with ticking spokes, the bring of bike bells and the occasional cry of "Watch out, here I come!" It took a little while for everyone to get the hang of the docks.
What are the docks?
It's where you park the bike. You had to touch the screen before the bike was released, and then again when you returned it. That added the energy you'd used to your account, and you could tap the screen to see leaderboards for everyone in your age range, in your street and even in your family. We found out what happened if you forgot to return the bike when Charlie left one by the witch's hat. The bike emitted a loud chirping noise followed by a robotic American voice. "Bike immobile, please return to dock." Charlie looked down. "You're not the boss of me," he shouted at it, grinning. To our delight, the bike answered back. "Repeat, bike immobile, alerting the parents of Charlie Barnes in 5 minutes." We'd never seen him scramble down the witch's hat so fast. He grabbed the talking bike and marched it back to the rack. Tapping in, he appeared at the screen. "Hey, I've been docked 500 calories, he moaned. We all laughed. But after that, we made sure we always returned the bikes to the racks. It wasn't just the children who used them. The grown-ups did too. One Saturday morning while Shannon was still in bed, although that meant any time before lunch. Like you two, eh? Dad suggested the rest of us should go for a ride around the village. This was about as likely as Shannon offering to play a game of hide and seek with us. "What, you?" I said. "I don't think they'd come with what, you?" What, you? I said. I don't think they come with stabilisers. Cheeky. Why shouldn't I join in the fun? Well, because you're too fat, shouted Reggie. Oi, there are pigs that would sell their mother for a pot belly like this. And besides, it doesn't stop me doing this though, does it? Said Dad, turning Reggie upside down. Don't worry about me. I was Kent Junior BMX champion back in the day. Once a pedal powerhouse, always a pedal powerhouse. We touched in by the play park, setting off a chorus of robo greetings. Reggie sped off, but I stuck around. If there were going to be embarrassing scenes, I wanted to be there, but I was disappointed. Dad pushed off, and after a few wobbles, he was soon circling around, and then we were off, the four of us looping around the village like we'd been cycle buddies for years. I'd forgotten how much fun it was, said Dad, thumping down off a curb. They're not bad little machines, these things. He leaned back and yanked on the handlebars. The front wheel lifted off the ground for a moment. Bit heavy for my taste. Not much chance of popping a wheelie. It's not the bike that's heavy, called Melissa, wheeling alongside. Cheeky. You might be right though, said Dad. Maybe I should start cycling to work. You? I said. On that bike you won? No, I'll take one of these, said Dad, standing up on the pedals. How hard can it be? Then I can kick your butt on that energy chart thingy. I'll probably get a medal, or they'll put a statue of me in the village green. Oh, John, you're like a 6-year-old trapped in a 45-year-old body, said Melissa, shaking her head. Shame it's the body of a pregnant mum, said Dad, patting his belly. Still, only one way to sort that out. Race you to the shop. But how come there's been nothing on our TV about it, said Shannon. She was picking unhappily at the vegetables in the genuine stir-fry that Melissa had made. But how did he? Just went from riding around on a bike to this. Right, okay. But how come there's been nothing on our TV about it? Said Shannon. She was picking unhappily at the vegetables in the genuine stir-fry that Melissa had made. But to be fair, so was everyone else. They didn't taste real. Dunno, said Dad, pushing his definitely not empty plate forward. I think I'm full, thanks, love. All those TV crews, but there's nothing on our telly. Don't you think that's weird? Dad looked at Melissa. Guess so. Help me out here, Melissa. Any ideas? Well, said Melissa, carefully spearing another carrot. Maybe you just missed it. Everyone looked at Melissa in disbelief. Since her phone had been taken away, Shannon and the TV had become inseparable. She hadn't missed a thing. Okay, maybe not. I guess there are already bike schemes in London and places like that, so it's not as interesting to people in this country. Shannon looked up at the clock, nearly 7. I'm going to check the news tonight, she said, and pushed her chair back. Shannon, said Dad, put your plate in the dish, but it was too late, she was gone. But not for long. Dad, she shouted from the lounge. Yes, my darling angel, said Dad, clearing the dishes. There's something wrong with the telly. What have you done with it? I'll clear up here, said Melissa. You go. Dad pulled a face, and Reggie and I followed him through to the lounge. Shannon was lying in her usual spot, legs hanging over the end of the sofa, head propped up with a cushion. She was frowning as she stabbed away at the remote control. Channel unavailable, said a message on the screen. Look, nothing. All the channels have gone. Just as she said that, the TV erupted with the theme tune for the One Show, and Matt Baker appeared. Looks okay to me, shouted Dad, motioning for Shannon to turn it down. No, but that's only BBC One. Look, all the satellite channels have gone, said Shannon, flicking through the big numbers. What about Nickelodeon, I asked. Gone. See BBC, said Reggie hopefully. Gone, they're all gone. We've just got, Shannon started at 1 again. BBC 1, BBC 2, ITV, Channel... What, even Channel 4 is gone? You've got to fix that, Dad. Hang on, why me? Said Dad. And besides, I haven't touched anything. Must be a transmitter down or something. Dad flopped down onto the sofa and grabbed the remote. Now budge over. I want Matt Baker to tell me why there aren't as many hedgehogs as there used to be. And maybe he'll show us some funny shaped vegetables. Ah, you're impossible, said Shannon, and flounced off to her bedroom. That did the trick, said Dad, turning the telly off. I don't really want to watch that rubbish. Who wants to see if they can balance more Lego bricks on their belly than me? Chapter 14. That wouldn't actually work because the satellite covers the entire country. So everybody in the country would lose the channels as well if there was a problem with it. Chapter 14. Back to school. You know those award days of the week I was talking about, when Saturday wins? Well, everybody knows that Monday would come bottom. It's nobody's friend, except maybe Izzy's. 5 days of school ahead. Boring whole school assembly. Literacy and maths until they come out of your ears. And of all the Mondays, the one that would get the most boos would definitely be the one after the Easter holidays. It's months until the next holiday, the weather is still rubbish, and you haven't even got Christmas to look forward to. There were a couple of changes though. For starters, House 2.0 now had a downstairs window. I'm saving a bit harder, said Dad when we asked him. And Dad said I could walk to school on my own, or with Reggie at least. You're old enough, he said. It'll be good practice for when you get the school bus. Shannon would be leaving the high school in town just as I'd be starting. Unless you fancy cycling to school, said Dad, you could ride in with me. To the relief of all our neighbours, our unlovable car hadn't backfired its way off the drive for days. Instead, Dad had got up earlier, so nobody can see me in cycling shorts, slipped on a rucksack and borrowed a bike for the journeys to work. The trip down the valley was easy, of course, but at the end of the first day he'd staggered through the door. Water, water, he gasped, before collapsing on the kitchen floor, groaning. But he's even more determined than me, and that was the beginning. He'd been cycling ever since. Shannon shook her head at me in warning. Don't even think about it, she said through a mouthful of cornflakes. I walked home once, it nearly killed me. It's like climbing Everest. What a wuss, said Dad. Those village bikes have about 324 gears, and if you take the cart track on the way down there are some gnarly drop-offs I can show you. He stood up. Right, you two, get on your way, bikes or no bikes. You don't want to upset that oddball teacher of yours. Head teacher of yours, thank you, Rachel. Reggie and I crossed the play park and continued out onto the main road. We reached the crossing before either of us noticed that Sheila wasn't there. Instead, a man and a woman in yellow high-vis jackets stood in the middle of the road with their backs to us, chatting away. I recognised the man holding the lollipop instantly because his jacket only came halfway down his back. Mr. Wharton. They didn't see us. So, do you like this? He was saying. Make sure you hold the lollipop close to the children, otherwise it'll be a jolly big waste of time. I had no idea that holding a lollipop was so difficult. And then as they cross, stay close behind them and make sure you're not accidentally covering up these small holes in the handle. Mr. Wharton spotted us and spun round. Oh, goodness gracious, customers already. Good morning, children. I now recognised the woman. It was Christy, the one from the council who had interviewed me. Hi, she said brightly. Great to see you again. Weird to see you again, I thought. Rightio, said Mr. Wharton. I think you're all set here. I'll leave you to it. Cheery bye. He yanked off his yellow jacket and set off towards the school. Hey, Mr. Wharton, I shouted after him. He paused and turned towards me. His eyes narrowed. Yes? Where has Sheila gone? She's having her hip replaced. She went into hospital at the weekend, won't be out for a week or two, bedbound. I expect she'll be off work for a couple of months at least. Right, on you go, or you'll be late. Have fun. Reggie pulled my hand. Come on, he urged. I promised Charlie I'd help him with his homework. Mr. Wharton was some distance away now, but he appeared to be talking to himself while sticking his finger in his ear. Meanwhile, Christy was fiddling with her brand new lollipop, trying to arrange her fingers on the stick like it was a recorder, and walking so closely behind us as we crossed that she trod on my heel. There was something very odd about those two. At school, all the talk was about the missing tally channels. The reception had never been great in our valley, mind you, but now all we could get was 3 channels. Even worse, the children's TV finished at 6 o'clock. It's not fair, said Izzy, as we stood around our bags. Elizabethan Engineering was on last night. I can't even watch it on catch-up. I was so bored I rubbed out all my maths homework and did it again. Do you do that often? Charlie gave Izzy a puzzled look and scratched his head. You could almost smell the burning as he tried to work out why anyone would do that. Eventually he smiled. He'd given up. Have you finished yet, Reggie? Reggie was kneeling down, checking Charlie's homework. Yeah, you got 2 answers right, plus your name, but I don't think that counts. Of course it does. Thanks, Reggie. He tucked his book back in his bag. You can come round later, maybe watch Nature's Bravest Squirrels on our 3D TV. Charlie paused. He can't really think and do things at the same time. Oh yeah, I forgot, it's on Channel 5. Charlie shrugged, flicked Reggie on the ear, and they both ran indoors laughing. Mr. Frost's first assembly after the holidays was always a long one, and that day was no exception. I think the days off gave him time to think up lots more bad jokes, although I bet he did make Mrs. Frost sit cross-legged until her legs went numb, listening to him rattle on. He wandered across to the back of the stage. He'd been doing this a lot in the assembly recently, pacing back and forwards, throwing his arms around and delivering every message as if he was performing Shakespeare. But this time he had a destination, the big school crest on the wall. This had been put up a couple of years before when the school had been taken over, apparently because it wasn't very good.
What's a crest?
It's like a motto or emblem, a badge, like a heraldic badge. Frosty had been parachuted in from a mega school to sort us out. He didn't literally arrive by parachute, though I bet he would have enjoyed that. He made everyone buy a new uniform. He added on another couple of years, so you stayed until you were 13, and the government would give him more money. And he did a sponsorship deal with a local waterproofing company and renamed it Rise and Shine Academy. Our logo was a sun and a rain cloud, naturally, but it was the motto which had got everyone talking. Soak up knowledge, dazzle the world. Sounds like something I'd used to clean the toilet, Dad had muttered. This, said Mr. Frost, waving his hand at the crest, is why we all get up in the morning. Speak for yourself, I thought. To drink in knowledge and shine a little more every day. Someone pretended to be sick near the back of the hall. It might have been a teacher, but Mr. Frost ignored it. But to do our best learning, we must be in tip-top form. So let me ask you, shiners, what can we do to help you be the very best person you can be? Shiners is what he called us children at the school. Frosty scanned the room. Nobody seemed keen to answer, perhaps because none of us understood the question. The answer is right in front of you, underneath our motto, a healthy eating school. That is what it says. That is what Mr. Wharton spoke about so memorably last term. All eyes turned to Mr. Wharton, who was standing, arms crossed, and who nodded slightly in acknowledgement. But Are we grown-ups doing enough to help you to get your fruit and veg? Are we? This clearly wasn't a question that needed an answer either, and nobody tried. Well, let's ask the woman who knows. Let's give a big Rain and Shine Academy welcome to Mrs. Scrincher and her fabulous team of chefs. The doors to the hall banged open, and in trooped the famously miserable Mrs. Shrinsher, head of the school kitchen, and her 7 helpers. But half-hearted claps turned to cheers as we saw that their strained, tatty aprons were gone. Instead, each adult wore a different vegetable outfit, as if they were going to a fancy dress party. Mrs. Shrinsher herself was in a bright red dress with a green cap, a tomato, I guessed, or maybe a strawberry. She was followed by a leek, that was Mrs. Weatherly, who's tall and skinny, an aubergine, a carrot, an onion, a potato, a runner bean, and finally Mrs. Plumpton, dressed in a dirty white and purple outfit with a leafy green hat. I'm a turnip. I saw her mouth to one of the confused teachers as she passed. All of them looked as miserable as sin. As you know, we have already introduced more vegetables to our menus, said Frosty. But Mrs. Shrinsher, why can't I say that? Scrincher. I'm putting an extra sh in there. Scrincher. Mrs. Scrincher reports that take-up has been somewhat unenthusiastic. Would that be right? Mrs. Scrincher nodded her head and her tufty green cap flapped in agreement. So from today, it's probably easier to talk about what you won't be able to eat at lunchtime. I'm extremely proud to announce that from today, Rain and Shine will be the first puddingless academy in the country. Do you think we should do that? Stop having puddings?
No, just carrot.
You know, I never used to have an afternoon pudding until your mum arrived.
Oh,
Anyway.
well, that's because you ate in the afternoons and everything like that.
Did I hear it right? We all looked at each other, looking for reassurance. That's right, said Frosty above the muttering of grumpy children. They weren't doing you any good, so we got rid of them entirely, which makes it possible to say that this is now a sugar-free school. Mrs. Scrincher smiled a measly thin smile, perhaps because she meant she didn't have to make any more puddings, but probably because we were all unhappy, and that always seemed to give her a lift. It gets better, announced Mr. Frost. It could hardly get any worse, I thought. He was on a roll now, bouncing around the stage, weaving in and out of the vegetable ladies. There's no point in a healthy school if you children spend all your pocket money on sweets at Mrs. Levitt's shop, is there? Please don't say you're removing them as well, I thought. So I'll be asking Mrs. Levitt to remove the sweets there as well. Frosty was now having to shout above the grumbles and even a few low boos. That's right, I can tell you're all impressed, he said, smiling. He stood back and grinned triumphantly. But don't stop shopping, because I'll always be asking her to introduce a new range of fruit and veg snacks. And even better, your parents have agreed to help out too. Packed lunches will now contain only savoury foods. Frosty looked around the room at the glum faces of pupils and staff. I can see you need a little time to take in all this good news. So let's all stand to sing the school anthem, Sunshine on a Rainy Day. Chapter 15, The Reflection Room.
And we're not done.
We're not done. Not even halfway through the book.
No, like I mean for today.
You want to stop there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, I don't mean you're sleeping in till nearly 10 o'clock. I want you to get up earlier in the morning